set in the beautiful mountains of southern Washington is the Washougal Motocross Park in Washougal, Washington for round 10 of the AMA 125 National Motocross Series. Hello everyone, I'm Jan Beekes, and joining me as always is David Bailey, our motocross analyst. And coming in here, the 125 points are at a dead heat. Steve Lamson and Ryan Hughes are tied. Now between Lamson and Hughes, David, who do you like?
Well, a few rounds ago, I liked Steve Lamson, who put on a spectacular charge to catch the leaders, but Ryan Hughes stopped all that at Unadilla, and ever since it's been pretty tough, and now it's become a fight, and Ryan Hughes is a fighter, and he's also the defending champion here at Washougal, so right now I like Ryan Hughes.
There are other guys that are going to give it a fight, of course. Third and fourth in the points are Huffman and Brown. How do you like their chances?
Well, Mike Brown is, I don't think anyone expected, nor did I, that he would be this close to the points lead this late in the series, so he's a real sleeper and very consistent. Also, Damon Huffman, who really hasn't been able to put it together, still only 11 points out, so a very legitimate shot for him, but if he can't get the ball rolling today, it's over.
It's going to be tight, it's going to be tough, but don't forget Robbie Raynard. He won our last round in convincing style. But first, let's take a look at the track.
This is one of the most beautiful tracks on the circuit, up in the mountains of Washington. Very fast, and the soil is really dark, and it has the illusion of looking like it has a lot of traction out there, but it's actually very slick, just an inch or two under the surface.
The place where you're most concerned about traction is, of course, on the start. And with the championship being tied, the start today, David, is going to be as important as ever.
And just last year, they changed the starting line from its original location, which was pretty much flat, to an uphill start. So it's going to sap a little of the horsepower out of these 125s.
Of course, the start's all important here in 125. The championship on the line. You can see they're getting ready, waiting for the gate to drop. It'll fall forward towards them. David said it's uphill. It gets tight at the top. Let's see. That's Pingree on the outside, but who got the whole shot? We're taking Michael Craig, Honda of Troy, goes to the front with his teammate Mike Brown right behind him. Look out, here comes 51, local hero Jason McCormick. The crowd's going crazy. The Washington rider here right out front.
You can already see how fast this racetrack is. These guys are pegged in third, fourth gear. They start the long hill into the back section. There you can see a little bit of the water they put down on the racetrack.
Mikael Pichon, 101 on the Kawasaki, now slots into second place. But the crowd going crazy. Their local hero, Jason McCormick, a wonderful start for him today in Moto 1.
Something I just noticed right there is that Ryan Hughes has gotten off ahead of Steve Lamson about 3 or 4 positions, so we'll have to watch as that battle shapes up late in the race, but that's the real points battle here today.
Don't forget about Mike Brown. Of course, he is still alive in the championship as well, getting a great start along with Mike Craig. But look at this guy. He is excited. The crowd is going crazy, and he is on fire. Can he keep this up, David?
I don't know. He's going pretty fast right now. He's got to be feeling it. You can hear the crowd. They're definitely into it. Their local boy is on the move right now. If he could keep up this pace, he'd win here by about 20 seconds. I don't think it's going to last.
This is like an all-out qualifying lap you might see in Formula One competition. This guy sees it. He's going for it. We'll have to see if he can hang on to it.
You can see already what kind of a lead he has over the rest of the field. Pichon doing all he can to try to hang on to second. This kid appears to be gone already.
Jason McCormick giving it everything he has. The privateer on a Honda. Mikael Pichon. We're looking back to see, of course, the all-important battle. What is going to happen between, there he is, number 9. And we're looking back for Lamson. Haven't seen him yet. There's Robbie Raynard.
Lamson,
Lamson must be in trouble.
He must have had a problem somewhere because he's only about 3 or 4 positions behind Ryan Hughes around about a quarter of a lap into the race. So he's going to have to hustle to stay with these leaders.
Jason McCormick from nearby Vancouver, Washington leads it. We'll be right back with more of Moto number 1.
The AMA 125cc Motocross Series on ESPN2 is being brought to you by Honda, winner and holders of the last 8 consecutive Supercross championships. Honda, come ride with us.
Back at Washougal, Washington, Jason McCormick leads it. Wow, look at this. Mike Brown over the handlebars. A gnarly crash for him. He's hoping to get restarted. His championship here still alive. Boy, that was scary looking, David.
Well, we're going to see him come into the frame right here. He just doesn't look like he gets a good drive. He could have missed a gear and hit neutral because he did a full nosedive right into the face of that second little jump there. He actually kind of got lucky because he stayed floating above the bike and just kind of bailed off nice and soft into the grass. And apparently it didn't affect him at all because he got going really quick.
Number 51, Jason McCormick, still leads it, but it appears as though number 101, Mikhail Pichon, is turning up the heat.
Well, he's got the pressure on McCormick. I think a little mistake there by McCormick, too. He's front end washed out, then he did a kind of a face plant into that tree branch, and I think Pichon knows he's going to be able to get around pretty soon.
But Jason McCormick, I mean, he's got all the incentive here. The fans are screaming there. Steve Lamson in trouble. Another championship contender seemed to have trouble, got tangled with another rider. Boy, this is really having big championship implications, and these two guys who could care less about the championship are now battling for the lead. Pichon goes to the inside and takes it, David.
Well, that was a nice move. McCormick just came down the hill and felt the pressure from Pichon and drifted wide and left the door wide open.
Well, what happened to Steve Lamson? Art Exton is down there, and he'll have the answer for us. Art?
Jan, the word here in the pits is that Steve Lamson, championship contender with Ryan Hughes, not only got a bad start, but was taken out by a local rider, Ryan Huffman. He is now in a disaster control mode as he tries to work his way back up. Ryan Hughes in good position to make up some points. Back to you.
Well, things are looking fantastic for Ryan right now because we haven't even seen Damon Huffman in the picture yet. Also, Mike Brown had a little problem there, lost a couple of spots, and a great opportunity for him to pick up a lot of points today.
Of course, these two guys that are up front are not really alive in the championship. Certainly not Jason McCormick or their number 19, Michael Craig. But Jason McCormick, only 20 years old. I mean, can a hometown crowd and the fact that he knows this track like the back of his hand make that much difference?
Well, it definitely can, but I think what's making the biggest difference is the fact that he got the hole shot, or he didn't get the hole shot, but he found himself in the lead after the first couple of corners, and more than anything else, that makes the difference.
Mikhail Pichon leads it at the moment, but it's now time for this week's Honda riding tip. Here's David Bailey.
This week we're going to take a look at positioning yourself to be able to make a pass and stay out of trouble. Right here, Damon Huffman refusing to follow the same line as the rider in front of him, positions himself on the outside around the corner, takes the inside in the next corner, and makes a clean pass. And take a look at Lamson right here, working inside and outside of Mike Brown. Finally pays off. He gets the edge over Mike Brown and kind of closes the door on him right there. You ever wonder where you're going to go when you're following two riders? Well, watch LaRocco right here. He's got two riders in front of him, taking what appear to be the fastest lines. He finds a line through the middle, cuts to the inside, and passes both of them in one easy swoop. That's just proof that when two riders seem to be occupying the fastest lines, you can still be creative and find another one. And watch Damon Huffman right here as he works inside and outside, refuses to follow the same line as Ryan Hughes and makes a pass. Remember, if you're following somebody and they make a mistake, it's your mistake too.
Thanks, David. Now, here's a couple of guys we'll have to see if they take your advice. Michael Craig and Jason McCormick.
Well, right here, Jason McCormick seems to be taking some of the best lines out there. He knows his track well, and that hole shot has really helped him to get up and rise to the level of the riders that typically beat him. And right here, he's holding off Mike Craig pretty well.
Mike Craig going to the outside. Oh, but doesn't have the line for the next corner. Mike Craig now has to regroup and mount a challenge there on Jason McCormick. But he comes back quick. They're coming down. Let's see, he goes to the outside. Can he get the drive off the corner and get position for the next one? No. Jason McCormick here with local circuit knowledge seems to be helping him a lot, David.
And he held him off just long enough for Mike Craig to make a mistake, and now he's got a little breathing room again. So that worked well for Jason.
It's interesting to me that the two guys leading this thing are guys that generally don't get great starts. Mikhail Pichon has struggled all year off the gate, and Jason McCormick today, I think just by being willed, I guess, by the hometown fans, with a great start, he hopes to hang on to it. Now, do you think he's a guy that will be feeling the pressure, might get some arm pump here and have trouble hanging on to it?
Well, typically arm pump happens right away. You go out, and as soon as you feel any pressure at all, and once you get past that first lap, that's when it really starts to kick in, and we've already gone past that point, and he still seems to be riding a pretty fast pace. It's not surprising to me that he's being hounded by these riders that are right here behind him, because these guys are typically a little bit faster, but I would imagine he'll fade back behind these guys, and with that good of a start, hopefully learn quite a bit and have a pretty strong day here.
They have to be worried, however, by the man on the move, number 9, Ryan Hughes. Currently runs in 4th place as we check the Suzuki Field Summary. Damon Huffman in 6th, another championship contender, but at the moment, Lamson not on the board. We'll be right back.
On
Unbelievable. Spectacular. Breathtaking. Crash.
In the booth, Art Ekman in the pits. We're looking back through the pack for Steve Lamson. Oh, a rider goes down there on that slick surface that Dave told us about earlier. There's Lamson. We've been looking for him. Earlier reports had him as far down as 29th position, David.
That's a lot of ground to make up, and when you got McCormick and Craig making a pass on McCormick right there, just cuts him off. With the pace these guys are running, and Ryan Hughes right there also looking to make a pass. I don't think Lamson will ever be able to catch him.
Looks like Ryan Hughes has done it. He also, wow, he's going for another rider that quickly. Ryan Hughes is trying to work himself. Oh, Jason McCormick comes right back after him. Ryan Hughes looked like he had the momentum. Now he's lost it, David.
Oh, man, that was close. Ryan squared off that corner, and they went through the air, came together. They actually landed into each other before they even touched the ground, but didn't even affect Ryan or McCormick right here. They seemed focused.
You can't say that Jason McCormick is letting him have it easy. He's going after him. We see Robbie Raynard, Pingree. There's Damon Huffman. Pretty good run for him today after a so-so start, but the man certainly on the move. Number 9. Ryan Hughes now has his sights set on second place, which is currently occupied by Mike Craig. That would be his best moto finish of the year so far. It was a 6th at Millville for Mike Craig, so a good run for him today as well.
Pretty good. We'll have to see if he can last the whole moto and stay up there. That's been his problem so far this season, is just having bad luck and crashes and just some inconsistencies in his performance. But right here looking strong. And Hughes got to be excited knowing that Lampson's still that far back in the pack.
Well, we've talked about Mike Craig. Art Ekman is with his mechanic, Sean Persinger. Art?
Sean, Mike is putting in a good, consistent ride. It's best to be out in front on this track.
Yeah, for sure. The lines are pretty tough in some of the corners. You can get cut off pretty easy if you're racing with somebody really close. So if you're out in front, you can pretty much pick your own lines, usually the fastest and smoothest. That'll work good in the beginning until he starts getting in the lappers. So hopefully he can get through there a little bit faster later in the race.
Well, at least it's a little cooler here today than we've experienced the last 5 races, so endurance might not quite be the factor.
Yeah, last week in Millville was really hot. Mike had a really hard time in it. A lot of guys did. But the weather's going to be to everybody's advantage this weekend. Be a lot cooler for him. So.
Well, as Sean pointed out last week, Mike had a lot of trouble in the heat. He still went 6-6. And today, with a much better start and cooler weather conditions, he should be able to hang up front.
We mentioned at the opening of the show never to count out Robbie Raynard. He was dominant in the last race. You saw him there briefly, number 22 on the Kawasaki. And we just can't say enough about Jason McCormick, the privateer who comes from local Vancouver, Washington. The fans going crazy. But to me, David, it's pretty exciting that he's been able to stay right where he is. P22, that means 22nd position for Steve Lamson.
Well, that's pretty depressing. We're already into the race pretty deep, and he's still in 22nd place. These guys, it's a freight train out front that are probably able to pull away from him while Steve's still buried in some of the guys that run a little slower pace. So look at that.
Hang on a minute. This is Mikael Pichon. He was leading this thing. He has dropped back. That now puts him in contest with his teammate, Ryan Hughes. He's trying to go for position. Everyone moves up a slot, including now Ryan Hughes.
Well, look at number 22, Robbie Raynard, who we didn't see a whole lot of, and now all of a sudden he finds himself only about 30 or 40 yards out of the lead of this race. So this is really shaped up to be a great battle. Craig now in the lead, and I think Raynard is the fastest rider of this bunch.
Ryan Hughes now, things really coming his way, of course. He's kept in communication with his crew via the pit board, and he will know that Lamson is buried back in 22nd position, and I think he's pretty confident that he'll be able to come up and make a move on Mike Craig.
Well, I think so, and what he's got to do is just keep riding aggressive and stay focused, because sometimes what happens, I can remember it happening in my career, when you got a guy you're in a close points battle with, and he's way back in the pack, you sort of step it down a notch, and all of a sudden you get passed by 6 or 7 guys, which can happen in a battle like this right here. Look at these guys. It's battling for position. You lose a lot of points, and you don't take advantage of a great situation.
You called it. Robbie Raynard is absolutely on fire. Man, he was styling off those previous jumps. He is absolutely going after. We have a Kawasaki trio. Oh, he's worried, Mikael Pichon. He's already looking over his shoulder.
Pichon looking back. Oh, who's this guy catching me so quick? Because he probably thought that there was no one really back there other than McCormick, and all of a sudden this guy's barking up his tree, and right now that's Robbie Raynard, who, like I said, I think he's the fastest rider of this bunch, and coming off of a pretty good week in Millville, a couple of moto wins, he appears to have the confidence.
Two of the youngest riders on the circuit. Mikel Pichon is 19. Robbie Raynard on the number 22 machine is only 18 years old. He goes to the inside, see if this youthful exuberance is going to work for him. Now he tries the outside. Seems as though he may have lost some traction on the outside, lost a little distance, but certainly he's been paying attention to David Bailey's Honda riding tips. Checking out the Suzuki field summary, Craig, Hughes, Pichon, Raynard, and Huffman round out the top 5. We'll be back with more of Moto 1 after this. Washougal Motocross Park, Jan Vikas, David Bailey in the booth, Art Ekman in the pits, and right now the battle is really between Kawasaki's. 101, Mikel Pichon, 9, Ryan Hughes. Oh, looks like a rider went down. Was that Mike Craig? That was our leader. Mike Craig goes down. The 3 Kawasaki's we were just talking about now go 1, 2, 3, David.
Well, that looks good for Kawasaki. They're not all factory Kawasaki's, but still, they've got to like it. And for Mike Craig, I think the same problems just keep continuing, and it's always something. It's got to get him frustrated, and he had a great ride going right there. He was going the pace of these guys. Possibly the pressure of Raynard pushing this pack forced Mike into a mistake.
But speaking of Kawasaki's, here in the last few rounds, the Kawasaki's, whoa, man, check out that style there by Robbie Raynard. He looks like he's having fun, David.
Well, that's probably exactly what's going on out there. He's having fun, and when you're having fun, you ride more relaxed, and when you ride more relaxed, you ride faster. But definitely showing the fans its drain plug off that jump right there every lap.
Don't forget that Robbie Raynard went 1-1, dominated everything in Millville, and of course seems to have the momentum coming in here today. I was about to say that here about mid-season or 3/4 of the way through, Kawasaki really seems to be turning up the heat. He said they're not all factory. This is a pro circuit, number 9, 101, another pro circuit, and then of course the actual factory entry for Robbie Raynard.
Well, I think when all this Kawasaki dominance began, Jan, was when Ryan Hughes went to Unadilla, defending race champion. He likes that track, and he rode fantastic. Then, at the next round of Millville, Robbie Raynard right there in second, finally rode up to his potential.
Robbie Raynard fast today. Art Ekman is with his dad. Art?
Well, Robert, it appears there's been no let-off for Robbie Raynard.
No, he's not letting off. He's wanting to show him that when he's healthy, he's out there for the win.
I know he had an upset stomach a little earlier. That usually means good things. He's nervous.
He was nervous, but he also ate a breakfast burrito this morning. Not the right thing.
So, David, you didn't used to have breakfast burritos before motos?
No, I try to eat a little more healthy, and I think when you're 18, you can eat whatever you want, though.
Hey, check this out. Here comes Damon Huffman. Just put a big old move on Mikel Pichon. Pichon has been backing up steadily here. He led for a while, but, man, everyone seems to be taking advantage. Now we have a battle for the lead starting to develop as well. Robbie Raynard, breakfast burrito and all, is now going after Ryan Hughes.
Well, Huffman now seems to be the guy on the move, and I think Pichon's riding fantastic. He's just not riding to that extra little percentage that he needs to compete with these other 3 riders, and they've just upped the notch a little bit, and he can't respond, that's all.
Now let's talk about Huffman. He's on a Suzuki, so he's now going after this supposed Kawasaki dominance. We've been a little bit hard on him this year. He's been struggling outdoors, but today he looks on fire, David.
Well, as I mentioned at the top of the show, he needs to get the ball rolling today if he wants a shot at this title, and right now he looks strong. He's come from off the pace a little bit, caught these guys, and he's running the pace. This is a matter of he can figure out where to get around them.
So this is a case of him, again, using the David Bailey Honda riding tips to not follow, find some new lines, and get some traction. But do you think there's a lot of lines available here, or do you think there's only really one fast one?
Well, typically there is only one fast line, but we've seen a lot of passing today, and Huffman's obviously passed a lot of riders to work himself into this position right here, so I think there's plenty of room for him to make a pass.
Talking about passes, check this out. Here comes a battle for the lead. Robbie Raynard goes to the inside, jams Ryan Hughes. Robbie Raynard taking it to the front. I think he felt that challenge from Huffman, David.
Well, he's got to make that move because I think Huffman is coming up quicker, and he knows if he can't get around to the lead, he'll have somebody pressuring him from behind. Right now, he's got already a little bit of distance on Hughes, and Hughes is going to have to ride more defensive with Huffman on his tail.
Keep in mind, all these riders are still alive in the championship. Checking the Suzuki field summary, Raynard, Hughes, Huffman, and Brown, they're alive in the championship. However, Steve Lamson yet to make the top 10. We'll be right back. Park, where Robbie Raynard, He's gone to the front. He's excited. He's having fun. He's been showing off to the fans. In some of these jumps, he's just been laying the bike sideways. This is the place he did it earlier. Again, Robbie Reynard with plenty of time to go and a couple of guys right behind him still showing off, David.
Yeah, you know, he's laying it pretty sideways right there, and obviously that doesn't slow him down at all, but it's surprising with these guys putting that much pressure on him, and he's still out there kind of showing off like that, so he must be pretty confident.
The confidence showing for Robbie Reynard, but right now the confidence also showing for Damon Huffman. He still has an opportunity to go for the title, but it really is crunch time for Damon Huffman. He has to get out there and win some of these things, but you said, David, you think he might be one of the fastest guys on the track at the moment.
Well, I believe he was in order to catch these leaders, but now he's caught up to him. Everyone's running pretty much the same pace, and he's got to know that Lamson's had trouble in this moto, and he's going to pick up a lot of points just like Ryan Hughes, but in the championship, he's got to get in front of Ryan Hughes, and I think that's why he's riding so aggressive.
+2, meaning he's 2 seconds ahead. You can, an abbreviated version there of you can do it, but another guy who's trying to do it is number 12, Damon Huffman, putting the pressure there on his arch rival, Ryan Hughes.
Well, right now, look at that. Mike Brown going to the inside. Huffman made a little bobble right there, left the door wide open, and Brown snuck in there and closed it.
Remember, we saw Mike Brown take a face plant. He went over the bars earlier. He has recovered, and maybe now we should give him the distinction of being the fastest rider on the racetrack.
Well, he just kind of got lucky right there by Huffman making a mistake, and you got to hand it to him, though. He was close enough to take advantage of it, and right now, very close to the leader. So this is a fantastic battle shaping up as we seem to be very near the end of this moto.
Now, these guys that are concerned about the championship, they know who's up there in the championship. What is a guy like Mike Brown thinking? He sees Robbie Reynard. He sees Ryan Hughes, Damon Huffman. He knows Lamson is back. I mean, at the moment, can they even think about that kind of thing?
Oh, they're thinking about all of it. It's, everything you're thinking about is points, and I can remember racing here and being involved in a championship battle. I didn't even care how I did in the moto. All I was thinking about was where my competitor was and how the points were shaping up. And right now, no one really expects Brown to be this tough, and I think that's to his advantage. You know, he's not that far out of the points chase, and if he can put together a good moto here while everyone's thinking something else, maybe he can sneak in there and really surprise everybody and put himself in a good position with a couple of rounds to go.
We know the riders are having a good time. You saw a great shot of the mechanics. They're definitely getting into it. It's almost as if, wow, they're riding it. Mike Brown just took it to Ryan Hughes. We saw that earlier. That's where Robbie Reynard took the lead of the race. Now Huffman is trying to take advantage of the lost momentum there for Ryan Hughes. Man, you said it. Mike Brown, he gassed it. He was on it. Aggressive. Boy, it paid for him.
Well, it sure did, and I think, just like I said, it's catching all these guys by surprise. You see Mike Brown riding this good at the end of the season when you think most riders would be nervous. There's a lapped rider gone down right there and making it even narrower through that narrow section.
Mike Brown now working his way past some lapped riders. That's 480 Jason Rich. Does a nice job of moving out of the way, letting all these championship contenders come through. Now, I don't think that Mike Brown has enough time to make a challenge for the lead on Robbie Reynard, but what a great recovery there, David.
Oh, it was a fantastic recovery. When you fall down in a moto and you get back up and you work your way into second place, now he's in a position for the overall, but I think what's on his mind is just trying to hold these two riders behind him in these last few corners.
They are certainly picking up the pace. This could be a photo finish for second place. Ryan Hughes, he smells it. He wants it bad. He wants to get revenge on Mike Brown. And, of course, Damon Huffman, hoping that maybe he can take advantage of a miscue. Looked to me like trouble there for Ryan Hughes. He was real close to Brown and then lost some distance.
Well, he came into that corner kind of on the outside, and that left the door wide open for Damon Huffman. So Ryan kind of in a tough position there, trying to make a pass on Brown, lost some time, and now Brown appears to have plenty of room. He's going to take it home in second, and Ryan Hughes is trying to do everything he can to hold Huffman back there.
Robbie Reynard's going to win it, but we're only yards away from the finish line. Who's going to get third? It's Ryan Hughes gets the better of Damon Huffman here in moto number 1. And a nice pat on the back there Damon Huffman gave to his good friend there, Ryan Hughes. Robbie Reynard, Mike Brown, Hughes, Huffman, and Pichon in the first 5. Craig McCormick, Sheik, Pingree, and Stevenson round out the top 10. We'll be back with Moto. Flashback, we go back 1 year to 1994 here at the Washougal Motocross Park. In Moto 1, Ryan Hughes won it, but here in Moto 2, everything broke loose with first a tangle in the first turn, and then a great battle between Honda teammates Doug Henry and Steve Lamson. Steve Lamson goes to the front side of a jump. Both Henry and Hughes go through, but it's not over yet. A course worker comes back onto the track to try and pick up the bike, and here comes Robbie Raynard straight into it. Steve Lamson is furious, trying to get the flaggers to get the bikes to come the other way. Watch this move between Robbie Raynard and Doug Henry. Remember that one, because Doug Henry will pay back Ryan Hughes later on. Huffman then goes to the inside and takes the lead. One of the best motos we've ever seen here at Washougal.
Well, Hughes and Henry have been battling it all year long, taking the line away from each other. That was the payback right there. Sends Hughes to the turf, but he got up and remounted and still was able to win the overall. But Doug Henry won the second moto, maintained his points lead, and went on to win the championship.
We're looking to see who goes to the front. It's a Suzuki. Went to the outside. I think it was Scott Sheik, number 38. It is. Mike Brown has slotted into second position. Oh, he comes to the inside already, trying to go to the front on Sheik, but Sheik holds on to it. 41 there on the Kawasaki Pingree, slots into third, but here comes Mike Brown. He's going to the outside. Sheik looking over his shoulder, trying to push him to the outside. Mike Brown wants to go for the overall, David.
Look at Jason McCormick. He's back up in there with a good start again. I don't see any of the real top riders. There's Ryan Hughes going by. I don't see Huffman. I don't see Lamson. Raynard's nowhere in sight, so great opportunity for these privateers to get out there and have a good battle for the lead.
This may be another big break for Ryan Hughes that he thought he had in moto number 1, but then found himself fading somewhat. Scott Sheik now with Mike Brown in between he and Jason McCormick. Jason McCormick has been impressive. These privateers, this must be the day of the privateer, David.
Well, so far, it looks pretty good. These guys have been getting fantastic starts here. I never could get a good start at Washougal. I don't know what the heck was going on there with the soil, but I never got one. There's a bunch of trouble in the back section.
Checking to see who it is. Oh, it's Damon Huffman, number 12 on the Suzuki. It looks like the Kawasaki that's down is Mikel Pichon. David, looks like he's hurt.
Well, yeah, I don't think he'd be squirming around in the grass like that for fun. He's obviously in a lot of pain. It's hard to tell exactly what would happen. That's a very slow section, so maybe he could have twisted his foot or knee or something maybe in that rut, and obviously out for this moto. And another problem for Huffman. I told you before the show got started today, he was going to have to get the ball rolling. It appeared that he had it, but now big problems. There's a look at Lamson moving through the screen, and a couple more riders. That's Mike Craig right there sitting on the side of the hill trying to get his bike restarted.
A lot of riders running into trouble just like we saw in 1994. This Moto 2 at Washougal. We have a battle for the lead. Mike Brown takes it to Scott Sheik. Mike Brown now, remember, he ran into trouble in Moto number 1, had a crash. He's hoping here in Moto 2 he'll be able to hang on. Look at this, Jason McCormick. He's now closing. He's going to try for second place.
Well, he's definitely running a fast pace. Remember in the first moto, he ran fast for the first 2-3 laps, then he faded back. But right now, definitely running the pace of the leaders. And what an opportunity for Mike Brown, who did have problems, like he said in the first moto, falling down, but still recovered for second. Right here, he's sitting in the first overall position.
There he is, Mike Brown sits atop our Honda field summary. Scott Sheik, the privateer, followed by the fellow privateer, number 51, Jason McCormick. We'll be back after this. Wild and crazy Moto number 2 here in AMA 125 National Motocross action. You're watching a battle between Scott Sheik and Jason McCormick, who now has just made his way up to second position. The privateer from local Vancouver, Washington. The fans absolutely cheering him on, going crazy. But of course, up front, Mike Brown has everything going his way, David.
Well, things look good for Mike Brown, especially when he looks over his shoulder and sees he's got 3 more privateers behind him. If he was to look back and see Huffman and Raynard and Hughes and all those guys breathing down his neck, I'm sure it'd make him more nervous and probably wouldn't ride as good. But these guys having a great battle amongst themselves, and that goes the same for them. They don't have any pressure. Remember, McCormick didn't really seem to slow down a whole lot. He just had a lot of fast guys, with all the Huffman and some of the factory guys, Raynard, catch up and pass him. And those guys are nowhere in sight. So these guys all look like they can put together a good moto score here.
Number 36, you see there the third privateer that David was talking about, is of course Chad Pedersen. Now, I wonder if the key is to have your bike stolen. Jason McCormick had his motorcycle stolen only a couple weeks ago. He runs in second. Chad Pedersen had both his machines stolen earlier in the season, and ever since then, he's been on fire.
Well, I don't know.
Not a very good incentive, certainly, but it's just a little bit of a factoid. We want to make sure we let everybody know. Jason McCormick, absolutely just having the greatest time. We did talk to him in between motos, and he said that he did get arm pumped. And, David, we kind of predicted that with all that pressure, that did slow him in Moto 1. Back at Washougal Motocross Park, Jan Vikas, David Bailey in the booth, Art Ekman in the pits, and there you get a great look at the interval that Mike Brown has over number 51, Jason McCormack. Now the fans here are just hoping that Jason could just keep it up on two wheels. They'd love to see him finish on the podium.
Well, I'm sure they would, but I don't know if that's going to happen, because there you get a look at how fast Lamson and Hughes are gaining on this crowd right there. Lamson wastes no time already picking a rider off.
Goes past Chad Pedersen. Now he has his sights set on Scott Sheik riding the Suzuki. And like you said, David, before long, he'll be challenging for a podium position. But, you know, this is not what Lamson wanted. He wanted to make sure he got an even better start to really try and pull out the kind of points lead that he's going to need coming into the final two rounds.
One thing that happens in motocross is it's not predictable at all. You just have to do the best you can with whatever start you get, whatever circumstances come your way. And today, not so good for Lamson so far, but Huffman's buried back in the pack, and he's got Ryan Hughes back there behind him. He's got a rider between himself and Ryan right now, so a chance for him to make up some points that he lost in the first moto.
The really good news for Steve Lamson is, of course, that he is past Ryan Hughes. Art Ekman is with his mechanic.
Mike, being in front of Ryan Hughes is one thing, but to gather more points, he's got to shoot for the leader.
Right, that's what I'm trying to get him to focus on is Brown, not the guys in between. I hope he can catch up and, you know, get up there with Brown.
It looks like he made a good pass on the backside.
Yeah, he did something back there at work.
Well, Art, what you guys can't see, but we can, is that Ryan Hughes made a mistake, and that allowed Lamson to take advantage of it. But he certainly had the speed and took it to Chad Pedersen. Now, he's really putting the heat on Scott Sheik.
Now watch Lamson go to work here. He's not going to follow him. He's going to be taking different lines, and he's got to take different lines. He's going that much faster than everybody else, and that speed just carries him. Look, he already makes the move on Sheik. That speed carries him out wide and seems to have his lines together, and I don't know if he's got enough time to catch Mike Brown, but he's definitely running a fast enough pace.
There's a pretty big gap between the two, and we saw in the background that Ryan Hughes was also trying to make his move on Chad Pedersen. His next victim may be Scott Sheik as well. Steve Lamson certainly has had things going his way this year. He had in Budds Creek the overall, Southwick the overall, Buchanan and Troy, and then in our last two races at Unadilla and Millville came in second overall. That kind of consistency really is what you have to win championships, David.
Well, that's why he's been in the points lead after that first moto disaster. Ryan picking up a lot of points, but the way things sit right now, it looks like he would be back in that points lead, so he's not going to give up until after that checkered flag. Hopefully he can make a pass on Mike Brown and put even a few more points on Ryan Hughes. But remember, this guy came from so far behind in the points, so he's got what it takes to win this championship. He's keeping the pressure on, and that's forcing mistakes by riders like Huffman and Ryan Hughes.
He now has the opportunity to put a move on Jason McCormick. This will not be popular with the fans here in Washington. Jason McCormick, we'll see if he puts up a fight. Well, as best he can, but unfortunately, well, he's coming back. He goes to the outside. He had lost second place for a moment, but Jason McCormick, spurred on by the local crowd, hangs on to second place, but it's not over. Oh, great battle, David.
Well, McCormick is pretty aggressive, and he's not intimidated. I like that. I like when you got a young guy that just doesn't want to roll over and die, and right here, McCormick taking it to Steve Lamson. Lamson probably thought he had that pass made and possibly just relaxed a little bit, and I think McCormick surprised him.
Now we'll get to see if he takes your Honda riding tip. He goes to the outside, and he does it just perfectly. He has nice position for the next corner. Again, he didn't follow. He was patient. Steve Lamson shows why, by our calculations, He at the moment is in the points lead, but check this out. Jason McCormick says, no way, buddy, this is not over yet. This is my home racetrack. I'm going after you. The 14,500 people here certainly agree with him.
Well, you can hear the people getting into this, and McCormick he's riding fantastic. And a lot of times you see a privateer ride over his head a little bit in order to go that pace, but right here McCormick looks under control. I'm impressed.
Well, with this kind of fan reaction behind him, who knows? Maybe he'll be able to come back and actually challenge Steve Lamson. But check out this interval. We're waiting. We're waiting. It looks to me like Mike Brown has checked out. You can tell when they're coming because the fans' arms go into the air. They want to see Jason McCormick taken back after the factory Honda of Steve Lamson. Now we take a look back to see if Ryan Hughes will be able to do the same there on Scott Sheik.
Well, he looks like he's putting the pressure on him right now, and that'll probably force Sheik into a mistake. It would just about anybody else out there. And Sheik probably doesn't have as much experience of riding up front as Ryan Hughes or Huffman or Lamson. So I think Hughes knows he's got to get around him to collect some valuable points. When he gets around him, he's got to go up and get around McCormick, too.
Well, that was kind of a nice move. Instead of taking the inside, Scott Sheik kind of drifted wide. That made Ryan Hughes go way out into the loose stuff. Scott Sheik right now trying everything he can, but as soon as I say that, Ryan Hughes finds a better line, finds some traction, and he now makes his way, but he's lost a lot of ground on Lamson.
Lamson's way up the track, but I think he'll be able to close in on McCormick. McCormick, I bet you, used a lot of energy trying to stay in that battle with Lamson, and the kind of conditioning that Hughes has, he should be able to catch up to him and make a pass in the last couple laps.
Checking the Honda field summary, we see that Brown, Lamson, and McCormick right now have podium finishes. We'll be back to find out if they keep them.
Series on ESPN2 has been brought to you by Honda, winner and holders of the last 8 consecutive Supercross championships. Honda, come ride with us.
Back at the closing stages here at Washougal. Look there, look behind Mike Brown. The gap has been closed. Steve Lamson may have an opportunity as they pass the flag stand. There's only one lap to go, but Lamson has closed down magnificently, David.
Well, he's carving away at Mike Brown's lead, about 2 seconds a lap. And right now, less than 2 seconds behind him. You got to wonder if he'd be able to make a pass. It's an advantage that Lamson has. He's been catching him so quickly. Brown probably won't know the lines in the racetrack where Lampson's making up all that time. So if he can get close enough, he could probably make that pass.
We did see that Brown did take a look over his shoulder as he passed the mechanics area. So he is well aware, as I'm sure his pit board would tell him, that Lamson is on a charge. But, David, it's one thing to catch a rider and another to pass him.
Well, Brown's pretty tough, and you saw that the first moto, he crashed, spent some time on the ground. It was a pretty good crash, too, and he got back up and still worked his way into second place and put himself in this position to win his first 125 National.
The first national win, if he can keep it on 2 wheels, for Mike Brown. And, of course, his mechanic, Jeff Nutter, is going to lose the hair on his head, his beard, and his mustache as a result. Now, that's some incentive there for Mike Brown.
Well, I think so. And, you know, the incentive to win this moto obviously is there for the points in the championship. However, if Mike Brown slips to second, lets Lamson by, he'll still win the overall. So either way, that hair is gone.
Jeff Nutter nervous, certainly in the mechanics area, but listen to the crowd. That's why they're cheering, because they know it's the last lap, and Steve Lamson is definitely within striking distance at the moment. We have a pretty long circuit here, so these guys will still have a few corners to battle it out. The 14,500 fans who were cheering for Jason McCormick now have an opportunity to cheer for the 2 Hondas to see who today will win Moto number 2.
Look at the lead they have over third place now. That's grown to about 10, 12 seconds. These guys have really picked up the pace. The very end, the last lap of the second moto, when you're the most tired and spent, these guys are duking it out. And right now, Lamson, it's a fantastic ride by him to come from off the pace and catch Mike Brown.
We talked that Mike Brown does not have to win to take the overall, but there's big bragging rights here. Lamson goes to the other part of the whoops to try and get more traction. We're only yards away from the finish line, and Mike Brown takes moto number 2. The fans today have been treated to some great racing, and their local hero, Jason McCormick, in fact, has made the podium here in moto number 2. Rounding out the top 10, Pedersen, Huffman, Pingree, Stevenson, and Buddy Antonez.
Lammy, unbelievable charge, and what a great finish.
Yeah, I didn't get too good of a start, and I just hammered the whole way, and I kind of thought Brown was going to be gone, but I just kept plugging away, and he was fading pretty fast the last few laps, so I gave it what I could, but just a wide open straightaway that I couldn't get him at the end. It's close, though.
Well, it was a remarkable comeback, considering you've got a lot of one lines out there and a lot of ruts.
Yeah, I felt pretty good. I mean, I was pretty mad after first moto, so that made me ride better second moto, so.
Hang in there, brother.
Thanks.
Lamson comes in 5th overall, but all the accolades today go to Mike Brown with his first overall national victory here in the AMA 125 Motocross Series. Art Ekman has caught up with him.
Michael, I know you've always had a great incentive to win. This is your first overall this year, but of course, once you get an overall, you get to do it to your mechanic, right?
Yeah, I got to shave his head bald, everything on his face bald. But that ain't the main thing. I just want to win, get overall before the rear's over, and I mean, ride my hardest, and I did, and I won overall today.
Well, the big thing is you're able to keep a pace way out in front, and then, of course, a tremendous charge by Lammy. What an exciting finish.
Yeah, I know Lammy do. He's in great shape. I mean, I figured he'd just hang back there and let me get all my energy wore out and just ride my hardest, and I mean, just luckily I got enough distance out there where he couldn't catch me, so I mean, ended up I went across there first. I guess that's all that matters.
Congratulations in keeping your cool.
All right, thank you.
Mike Brown keeps his cool, but Ryan Hughes now takes over the points lead. Mike Brown slots himself into 2nd place. 4 are really alive, but the man today with all the attention is with Art Ekman.
Jason, congratulations. It's not as if you didn't have the crowd behind you. Could you hear him out there?
Oh, I can hear him every bit of the way.
Well, it's nice not only to hit a top 3 spot in a moto, but also collect the extra funds that they collected here at this track.
Oh, man, that's going to definitely help, especially for the bills I owe. And I'm just happy. That's my dream, to finish in the top 3, and I finally did it.
Congratulations, Jason, and best of luck in the future.
And this is what you've been waiting for. For David Bailey and Art Ekman, I'm Jan Mikas. We'll see you next time from Binghamton, New York.